Good morning, children. Hope you all are well. Welcome to your English class. Children, today we are going to start a new chapter from our Real English book. It's chapter number 13. The name of the chapter is Too Dear. Now, this chapter is written by Leo Tolstoy. About the author, if I tell you, then Leo Tolstoy, he was a very famous Russian writer. Okay, and he is considered to be one of the greatest authors of all time. He was born on 9th September 1828 in Russia, and he died on 20th November 1910 in Russia. Now, about the author, like he has written many short stories and novels also. His famous books were War and Peace and Anna Karenina. And apart from all this, there were many other books which he has written, but these two books were his most popular creation, and they have been the story of these books have been used to make movies also. So you'll find a movie in the name of War and Peace, and this movie is based on his writing. And another one, Anna Karenina, that again the movie was based on his story only. So that is just some points I wanted to tell you about the author Leo Tolstoy. Now let's see the story of this chapter. Have you ever thought about the hardships faced by a prisoner? Now see, when a person is in prison, then his life definitely is not a bed of roses. He has to face many hardships and difficulties. So, what could possibly be the hardships or the difficulties, the problems faced by a prisoner? Just think over it. It would be very difficult. I can make out they would be facing, because we normally see in movies and TV their life. So life is not good there, right? What do you think someone imprisoned for life cares for the most? Now, suppose an individual is imprisoned for life, right? What would be his concerns? What would he care for the most? Moral values, good food, or the freedom to go home? Now he has three choices. So what would he care for the most? I think he would like to have the freedom to go home more rather than moral values or good food. He would always choose the freedom to go home and be out of the prison. Right? Now, the following story is a humorous account of the troubles of dealing with a criminal in the kingdom of Monaco. Okay, now this story which we are going to read now, this is a humorous account. It is a funny one, and this story deals with the troubles of a criminal in the kingdom of Monaco. Now, where is the kingdom of Monaco? We are going to learn about it soon. So, in this kingdom of Monaco, the king really had faced trouble in dealing with a criminal. Now, what was the trouble? How this king tackled this, and much more we are going to study in this chapter, right? So let's get started. Near the borders of France and Italy, on the shores of the Mediterranean Sea, lies a tiny little kingdom called Monaco. Many a small country town can boast more inhabitants than this kingdom, for there are only about 7,000 of them in all. And if all the land in the kingdom were divided, there would not be acre for each inhabitant. So, this is about the kingdom of Monaco. Okay, this kingdom of Monaco was near the borders of France and Italy, and it was on the shore of the Mediterranean Sea, right? And many, even a small town like ours can boast more inhabitants. They can say that our population is more than this kingdom, because there were only 7,000 people in that kingdom, which are much lesser than even our town. So it was such a small kingdom. And if all the land in the kingdom were divided, then there would not be an acre for each habitant, right? So each habitant would also not get an acre of land. So it was such a small land, and the inhabitants of this land were also very less. They were about 7,000 people who lived in this kingdom. So this is about the kingdom of Monaco. I hope it's clear to you. A small kingdom with population of about 7,000 people, and it was near the border of France and Italy. Clear? Let's move. But in this toy kingdom, there is a real kinglet. Now see, kinglet, this is actually a humorous word used for the king of a very small town. Like we have pig, piglets. Okay, so same way they have used it for a baby king. Right? We have booklet. So in the same way, he was actually a king, but the place was so small, his kingdom was so small, and there were very few people. So here they have humorously used for him kinglet rather than the full-fledged king. But in this toy kingdom, there is a real kinglet, and he has a palace and courtiers and ministers and a bishop and generals and an army. So, though it was a toy kingdom, a very small kingdom. See, the kingdom was also small, so they have used the word toy kingdom for it. So, in this toy kingdom, there is a real kinglet, but in this kingdom, the kinglet had a palace, he had courtiers, he had ministers like all other kingdoms have. So, everything he had, though it was a toy kingdom, very small one, but still there was a palace, there were courtiers, there was ministers, there was a bishop, there were generals, and even an army. Everything was like a normal kingdom. It is not a large army, only 60 men in all, but still it is an army. There were also taxes in this kingdom as elsewhere. So this was a normal kingdom, only thing it was small in size, and due to the small size, everything was in small. It is. They also had an army, but the army was not a large one. There were only 60 men in all. But still, it is an army. There were also taxes in this kingdom as elsewhere. All kingdoms have some or other taxes levied on its people. So this kingdom also had taxes. Clear? Let's move further. Now, it happened a few years ago that a murder was committed in this toy king's domain. The people of that kingdom are peaceable, and such a thing had not happened before. The judges assembled with much ceremony and tried the case in the most judicial manner. Now, it so happened that in this kingdom, few years ago, murder was committed. Now, this kingdom actually has people who are very peace loving, and such kind of murders or other events doesn't happen often or doesn't happen at all, right? So this murder kind of thing had not happened earlier in this kingdom. So to solve, now somebody has committed a murder, so action has to be taken. So judges of the kingdom, they assembled with much ceremony. Okay, with great ceremony, they all were called and they all assembled, and the trial of the case began in the most judicial manner. See, this incident has happened for the first time, so the trial of the case took it in a most judicial manner, because such things don't happen very often, right? So, what happened next? Let's see. There were judges and prosecutors and jurymen and barristers. They argued and judged, and at last they condemned the criminal to have his head cut off as the law directs. So far, so good. Next, they submitted the sentence to the king. The king read the sentence and confirmed it. If the fellow must be executed, execute him. So, now after the judges had come with full ceremony and all, they had assembled, what happened next was, now the trial of the case began. Now, since it was the first case of murder in that kingdom, so what happened? There was lot of discussion on that. There were judges, there were prosecutors, there were jurymen, barristers, all were brainstorming. They all were discussing that what should be done. They argued and judged, and at last it was finally decided that the criminal will have his head cut off as the law directs. That is, this man will have to get his head cut off because he has also murdered someone. So, this was the final judgment given after lot of arguments, right? And the judges, the barristers, they all criticized the criminal. They condemned him for doing such an act, and the law said that because he has murdered somebody, so his head should be cut off. Now things were good till here. So far, so good. Everything looked well till here. Now, next, they submitted the sentence to the king. Now, before you give death punishment to somebody, right, the final authority has to sanction it. You have to get permission from that person, right? Now, see, if we talk about our judicial system, the judicial system of India, then if somebody has to be hanged, then that has to be approved by the president of the country. Okay, not anybody can hang just because the court said you cannot hang that person, but it is the case about someone's life. So you have to take the permission from the highest authority, that is the President of India. So in this case, the King of the Monaco is the highest authority, so they submitted the sentence. Whatever was decided in the court, they submitted it to the king. The king read the sentence which was given by the judge, and he confirmed it. Right? He said, if the fellow must be executed, execute him. Execute is to hang him till death. If this law says that this fellow must be executed, then we have to do as per the law. We have to execute him. So this is what the king said. There was only one glitch in the matter, and that was that they had neither guillotine for cutting heads off nor an executioner. Now, see, children, cutting off someone's head is not like chopping potatoes or onions. Okay, it needs a special kind of skill. So, now there was one glitch in this matter. One glitch is one problem in this matter. To execute that criminal, there was one problem. And what was the problem? The problem was that the kingdom of Monaco, they neither had the guillotine and nor an executioner. A guillotine is a machine used for cutting people's head off. An executioner is the expert. Okay, an expert who uses this machine. Not anybody can use that machine. There are experts to do so. He is an official person. So, this official person who usually executes these convicts, these criminals. So, they neither had the machine nor the executioner. So, that was one problem. The ministers considered the matter and decided to address an inquiry to the French government, asking whether the French could not lend them a machine and an expert to cut off the criminal's head, and if so, would the French kindly inform them what the cost would be. The letter was sent. Now, since this kingdom of Monaco was very small and they did not had machine and the executioner, so the ministers again considered the matter. They again discussed on this, and finally they decided that they will address an inquiry. That is, they will inquire from the neighboring French government. Now, this kingdom of Monaco, as I told earlier, it was on the border of France and Italy. So they thought that they'll ask their neighbors, the French government, if they could lend them a machine as well as an expert who can cut off the criminal's head. And if they can do so, then what the cost would be of lending the machine as well as the expert. So how much money they are going to charge for that? And for this, they sent a letter to them and inquiring about the machine and the expert to operate it. A week later, the reply came. A machine and an expert could be supplied, and the cost would be 16,000 francs. This was laid before the king. He thought it over. 16,000 francs? The wreck is not worth the money, said he. Can't it be done somehow cheaper? Why 16,000 francs is more than 2 francs a head on the whole population. The people won't stand it and it may cause a riot. So, once they had enquired, sent a letter to the French government enquiring about the machine and the expert. So, after a week, they received a reply from the French government and they were ready to supply machine as well an expert. And they said that the cost for machine and the expert would be 16,000 francs. Now, once this reply came, this was laid before the king. He was given this reply. After receiving the reply and going through it, he thought it over. 16,000 francs. He was worried. He thought that criminal was not worth that money. Why we should spend 16,000 francs on him? Can't it be done somehow cheaper? Isn't there any other cheaper way that we can get rid of him? Why 16,000 francs is more than 2 francs a head on the whole population. Now, children, do you remember that this kingdom had a population of about 7,000 people? So, when we divide 16,000 with 7,000 people, so it comes to nearly more than 2 francs per head for the whole population. And the king was worried that the people won't stand it. I mean, people will not be ready to take the extra expense. They will not tolerate this, that just to get rid of a murderer, they have to spend more than 2 francs per head. So people won't stand it and it may cause a riot. It may cause a riot means it may cause a disturbance in the kingdom. So king was not ready with this method of getting rid of the criminal. So he said, can we do it in some other way which is cheaper than this? Now what happened next? That we'll discuss in the next session. For today we have only till here. So till we meet again, children, take very good care of yourself. This pandemic has again come down to our town and it is becoming serious again. So please take very good care of yourself and your loved ones. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.